I'd like to start by introducing myself. My name is Kayla Johnson. My family is from the Good Cook First Nation. And I am a young woman with a lot of challenges that have come from entrepreneurship that I wanted to share with you guys today. I'm the communications officer with the Joint Economic Development Initiative, JEDI. But it stems from 4 years of experience in my own business that I wanted to share. And the reason why we're doing this is because a lot of people have a false understanding of what entrepreneurship might be. And a lot of entrepreneurs, I have a lot of entrepreneurial friends, and that we've all learned the hard way about what entrepreneurship is and experiences starting your own business. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love entrepreneurship. I'm taking a break right now. You'll learn a little bit why. But I 100% will jump back into it. I just know how I'm going to do it differently. And that's one of the main things I wanted to share with you guys today. So before I jump in, I'd love to hear a little bit about who's on the call with me. I do recognize some names and faces, but if maybe someone, I'm not gonna make everyone speak, but if you want to join me and let me know who you are, where you're from, and maybe what your relationship is with entrepreneurship, whether you are an existing entrepreneur and you might have shared the same struggles that I've had and the same successes, or if you're looking to start a business in the future and you're wondering if entrepreneurship is the path for you, or you know it's for you and you're just trying to figure out what that path looks like. I'd love to hear from anyone on the call.
Well, I'll say something. So I'm Kathy Augustine, and I'm from Escanobridge First Nation. And I started a security company. I'm in the process of starting my security company, and I'm actually in the incubator winter program. So yeah, I'm doing security. So
awesome. Thank you. Are you a new entrepreneur? You're fresh at it?
Yes, new.
But I'm sure you've already started to learn a little bit of what that's like.
Oh yes, we've done quite a few things. I've done a pitch and everything. So I'm just, yeah, this is all new and yeah.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Kathy. Anyone else like to share? Hi, Dustin. It's great to see you on the call. Anyone else kind of new to entrepreneurship? Okay, I'm going to jump in. Feel free to interrupt me. This is going to be way more casual than, I know I'm wearing the fancy jacket, but it's going to be way more casual than that. It's more of a conversation. So yeah, a little bit about me. I'd love to start about sharing my history. So my thing, as you can see here, is event planning. With JEDI right now, I do a lot of events with them and marketing, but I started planning events 8 years ago professionally, and it was all fun before that. But then I learned that events were my thing. So it accidentally turned into a business for me. I started a side hustle in 2017. It was called Kayla Johnson Projects and Events. Super unique, I know. But I did that on the side of a job that I was working. And this job that I was working was not fun. It was not good. It was in business, but it was very focused. It was way more focused on making a profit and making the executives more financially well off than I would have wanted. There was no impact to it, and I didn't feel right. What I really wanted was to drive a difference and drive change. I know whenever I hosted events on the side, and I was doing the side gigs all the time under this projects and events business, I just loved seeing joy to people's faces. I loved hosting nonprofit events where we could make a difference, fundraise, give back to people. That was why I was involved. So the two different businesses clashed, and I wasn't really in the right place. So in 2018, I decided, let's just take the jump. I have nothing really prepared. I'm just going to jump right into this full time. So I gave my employers a 3-month notice and kind of gave myself, okay, like in 3 months, that's it. I've got to fend for myself. I'm my only source of income. Let's make this work. Luckily, I had the privilege of, not luckily, but I had the privilege of having my family to go back to in the case of not having enough to pay rent or something. But I didn't have a partner, didn't have children. There was no one relying on me, so I had that luxury. But jumping into it was really freaking hard, and that's why we're here today. But I would not take it back for a second. So I left in September 2018, and I was working full-time for myself up until last year. And then the last year, it was, October 2021, I started full-time with JEDI here. Now I've been working with JEDI for about 3 years, I believe. I would say 3 years. Helping plan events just on contract. JEDI was one of my clients. And then luckily, when I decided, okay, I got to shut this business down, there's nothing more I can do here, JEDI reached out to me and were like, well, we have a full-time position, come join us. So it's a beautiful act of fate in that little world there. But some of the things I guess I wanted to talk about in regards to Arcacia, my event planning business, again, it was Kayla Johnson Projects and Events, and we did a rebrand. We focused a lot on nonprofit events and events that drove impact. On top of that, we also did a lot of projects. So I supported entrepreneurs, I built business plans, and I helped a lot of people get started in other business consulting activities. So that's what Arcacia was. And I was busy, but I wasn't bringing in the best kind of profit. And I'll share a bit more. I'm setting up the story a little bit before I dive into the tactical. Yeah, where are we now? I've been with JEDI for 6 months full time. I'm hosting events still, which is exciting, but there's security behind it, and I'm really happy to be here. And after reflecting about my event planning business, there is a lot that I would do differently if I were to start a business again in the future. So this is a speaker series. These are things I wish I knew before starting a business. And please stop me at all if you have any questions. So I'm going to set the stage a little bit. A lot of what I'm telling you are going to be tips and tricks of things that I've learned the hard way. And a lot of these tips are things that I've gone to fellow entrepreneurs in the past. I've gone to mentors and I've said, hey, I'm having a really hard time. Is this common, or have I just been dealt a pretty crappy hand of cards? And it's common. So a lot of entrepreneurs have gone through these challenges too. So over the times, I've talked to lots of entrepreneurs who came to me asking what they should do to start a business, and we've compiled a little list of things that you should keep your eye on. So these are tips before you get started. Of course, everyone's experience is different. And even if you are started, a lot of these tips could be really helpful for you. But this is not just my experience, but it's everyone's experience. And I'm using mine to use as an example so you can kind of play it on your own terms too. So hopefully when you walk out of this presentation today, you can have an idea of, is entrepreneurship really for you? And if it is really for you, are you ready now, or should you wait a little bit longer? So that's another tip that we're going to talk about here today. And yeah, again, every experience is different. Your experience will not be identical to mine, and vice versa. But I'm going to get super vulnerable. So it was really hard putting this together. I did a lot of actual reflecting, but it was really helpful. So one of the main things in entrepreneurship is that people kind of underestimate is time, the time you put into it. Everyone knows, oh yeah, you're an entrepreneur, you're not just working 9 to 5 anymore. You can work whatever hours you want to. But in reality, they say that there's freedom in entrepreneurship, and in reality, that's a myth. So a lot of people are like, I'm going to start a business because I want the freedom. I want to go to a doctor's appointment at 10 o'clock in the morning without having to ask permission. It's a lot more than that. Yes, you do get that capability, but all the time that you put into your business and all the effort that you put into your business is not going to, it's more than just, your 8 hours a day. You're going to be sitting in the doctor's office on your phone trying to answer emails because you are your livelihood. You're putting a roof over your head. You're putting food on your table. It's so much more than that. So a lot of times I see starting a business and everyone's like, oh, entrepreneurship. I want to start a business because I want freedom. You're married to your business. It's not that free, but it's really, it's thrilling. And yeah, the accountability is 100% on you. So another challenge when it comes to time and entrepreneurship is you can put in a crazy amount of effort and time, but that does not automatically mean success. And that's where a lot of people have a hard time seeing it. So that's the accountability, not only for you to show up at 8 o'clock in the morning because you don't have a boss saying, oh, where are you? You're not here. It's a matter of also saying, okay, I know I've been putting in all this hard work. I can't physically see it right now, but I'm going to keep pushing and I'm not going to give up. So that's another piece to this as well. I'm going to show you this photo here is of RibFest in St. John years ago, pre-COVID. It was my first year working for myself, and I said yes to everything. There wasn't a single thing I said no to because I was desperate to get clients and I wanted to plan an event for anybody. So here at RibFest, I remember this event was 4 days long. Laura, you were likely there. I did see a lot of people, but it was 4 days long. And then there was a setup day and an ending day, and that's 6 days. I was on site for minimum 15 hours per day. And I booked 3 events back to back. So every weekend after that, I had an event. You'll see earlier, this conference that I had here too was an event there. Yeah, Jolene, you were there as well. Hi, Jolene. I looped her in to have a booth at the event too. Jolene's family, so she's been all over the place with me. But yeah, so that's one of the things too, is starting off, you're a yes person, like you're saying yes to everything, and you'll find yourself exhausted. And that kind of leads into some of the other tips at the end. But from this slide, when it comes to time, my key tip is the media will tell you there's lots of freedom in entrepreneurship, but that is a myth. But it's not a bad thing. It's actually, you're pushing yourself to your limits. I loved being able to show up and say, wow, like I worked a lot, like I've worked 80 hours this week, but I know I can't see it right now, but I know I'll be able to see it in the future. So that's another piece to that as well. So the big question everyone talks about is money when it comes to starting a business. So I'm not going to teach you about this. That's not me here today. If you want to learn more about how to manage your money or anything, follow JEDI's content. There's lots of other events where someone will actually educate you, like Diane. But I'm here to tell you about things I wish I would have known. So on the right here, you'll see a photo of my brother cleaning a brand new venue that I had purchased March 2020. So actually it was January 2020. I was renting this venue / office space. Of course, pandemic decided I wasn't going to keep it, but I honestly shouldn't have even purchased the venue in the first place. So one thing I was not very good at, not two things, this whole list of things I was not very good at. Let's start at the top, financial literacy. So even though you have people hired to manage your taxes or your bookkeeping or helping you with your accounting, I highly, highly recommend that you understand everything, that you can go in and you can see every month what's happening. Don't rely on someone else to take care of that until you fully understand and trust that person and you understand what they're doing. A lot of times I had someone taking care of my remittance for my employees. In reality, I didn't understand that I had to be the one to go in and physically pay them. So I'm late on remittance or whatever the case is. So there's lots of things that I've learned. Having made all those mistakes, I know now, but one thing I would have changed is understanding financial statements, understanding how finances work in a business and what that means. So the different pieces to that would be cash flow. I know every business is different. You have your product businesses, you have your service businesses, and everything in between. As a service business, and this isn't just specific for service businesses, but I'd have event clients, and the event would be 6 months out. You get your deposit up front, but there's still other payments. I'm trying to set it up so I can get other payments throughout the 6 months was challenging. And in a lot of cases too, you'd send an invoice and it's due in 30 days. People might wait until the last 30 days or they'll be late. So there's lots of times where people weren't paying their invoices on time, or I'd end up having 5 events in 4 months. And then I spent so much time working on those events, I didn't have anything lined up for afterwards. So in service, it's a little challenging. It's also challenging in products as well. Everyone has their cash flow challenges, but try to map out when your money's coming in and when it's going out, and making sure you have enough for when it does go out. So that's a challenge I had to go through too. Understanding your taxes is also key to this as well. I still don't think I fully understand them. So there's lots to learn there, but because of the mistakes I made in my business, I still owe taxes and I'm still trying to pay them off. So the challenge there too came into the financial literacy, as I thought it was taken care of because I didn't fully understand what my role is in connection to a bookkeeper or in connection to an accountant, and what all those different people make, how they all play together. So that's another key thing I had to keep in mind. So with this venue, I saw a bunch of revenue coming in, and I was starting to show profitability. My business was profitable for a good 5-6 months. And I thought, okay, this is a perfect opportunity for me to grow. I have some cash, let me grow. I'm going to try to find a loan to match it, and let's get a venue so that I can push this forward. But because of my cash flow problems, I ran out of money halfway through. And that's why you see my brother volunteering to sweep the floors, because I was the one that put the flooring in. I was the one that put the baseboards on and painted the walls on and all of that. So, I mean, that's entrepreneurship. You bootstrap where you can. You spend as little money as possible. But I wasn't planning well enough. One of the things I should have done was talk to as many financial people as possible. I think I talked to one. I talked to one person who was able to give me advice before I made these decisions. But I took one person's advice and I ran with it. I wish I would have talked to more. So that's another tip that I'm giving you today. Make sure you understand your cash flow, when money comes in and when it's going out, not just for the next 2 months. Like, plan ahead. When you have profitability, when you're profitable, when your business is making money and you're sitting on some cash, don't try to invest and boost your business faster. Let it be a race, let it be a marathon. It doesn't have to be a sprint. So save some for those rainy days. Because this photo with my brother, you'll see, was taken 2 weeks before the government announced that events were no longer allowed in New Brunswick. So we had to switch to 100% virtual after 2 weeks. So I lost that office space, and I'm still in debt because of it, but I've learned so much more for my next business. So I wouldn't take back anything. Speaking of debt, one thing I would recommend, or actually I wanted to say first, debt's not bad and debt's not scary. It's important to take risks as an entrepreneur. You have that urge to take those risks. I think debt's important in a lot of cases, but you have to be smart with your debt. I would recommend, one thing I would have done differently is make sure that I have enough money to match the loan that I'm pulling in. So for example, if I need $20,000, I'm going to make sure I have $10,000 and I'm going to match an extra 10. Or if I'm doing well, I'm not going to get a loan at all, whatever the case is. Another thing too is careful not to personally guarantee your debt. So try to put everything on your business. If it's incorporated, I would recommend incorporation if you're doing any large activity. JEDI can help you understand that if you're not at that point yet. But when you personally guarantee your debt and something happens to your business, like a pandemic or something that you can't possibly push through well enough, if you're personally guaranteed, If your business goes down, you will probably be going down with it. For lack of better words, I told you vulnerability. What I mean is I have a lot of debt that I personally guaranteed because my business was looking like it was going up pre-pandemic. So now I can't officially close the business without personally going bankrupt myself because I'm guaranteed there. So to avoid that, I'm still paying my monthly payments on my loans and whatnot. But again, I think of it as like a really expensive education, like a university or something like that. Just be careful before getting into debt. Make sure you think on it and consult somebody. Consult Diane if you're in. I know that Kathy, you mentioned you're in the program. Talk to Diane. She's brilliant. There's lots of other brilliant people out there who can help you with your finances. Make sure you understand that up front. And one more quick thing about money. I don't want to jump too heavily into this portion of it, but when you're starting a business, and I was doing this alone and I didn't have a partner at the time. So when it came to trying to do anything personally, I learned the hard way that because Kayla versus Arcacia, Kayla wasn't making any money because all the money just stayed in Arcacia, and eventually I'd give myself a little dividends here and there to help pay for rent because I did move back in with my parents and I did move out after a year or so in the business. I could not get any car loans. I couldn't get a mortgage because I hadn't shown stable income for myself personally. So, and that's, my mother's an entrepreneur too, and she stayed a sole proprietor. She never took a salary from her business. She also, to this day, has to rely on my father for a lot of the co-signing and all of that kind of thing. So just keep that in mind when you're starting your business. If you are starting to get financially stable and your money, there's money coming in and you're able to pay yourself, because really you should be paying yourself first. If you're working in your business full time, then I'd recommend getting yourself on that salary quickly so that you have that stability. So in a couple of years, you can show, hey, bank, I'm good for a mortgage. I have 2 years of financial stability on paper, not just a bunch of random payments back to me because I funded my business's first few years. Does that make sense? Are we feeling good so far? I made the mistake so that you guys don't have to. That's the point of this. Another thing is skills and entrepreneurship. Another mistake I made, I keep saying mistakes. I'm not trying to make this negative. I'm trying to show you tips on how I would do it differently, is you cannot be the jack of all trades. You might be able to be good at marketing, sales, financial, whatever the case is, but it's really hard for you to do all of it on your own. So one thing that I do recommend when I do talk to new entrepreneurs is, if you've never really done any marketing activity before, any social media promotions, but you're really good at financial literacy, or you're really good at sales, maybe it'd be a good opportunity to hire someone to support with your social media, and vice versa, hire somebody else. It's good to understand, like I said with financial literacy, understand that skill that you're not like a pro at, or you're not like well versed in, but it's okay to hire people to fill in those blanks for you, because you're one person and you can't be expected to know it all. And one thing too is I wish I would have hired people earlier and made a point to hire not so much employees, but contractors earlier on to help with marketing or whatever the case is, because I could have got a lot more revenue that way, help with sales, or taken the money I've spent elsewhere and put it more into my financials, like a bookkeeper or an accountant, so that that part of my business wasn't suffering. So it's understanding your weakness and filling in the blanks that way, and making sure you account for that early on. It's hard up front. I know you have to bootstrap. QuickBooks becomes a really good friend of yours, but understand where you want to fill in the blanks as your business grows. And the two things, after talking with entrepreneurs and hosting many entrepreneurial events and attending many of Diane's sessions with the incubators and accelerators, people hate sales and people hate social media. I've had entrepreneurs say, you know what, like, I know a lot of people, word of mouth is going to be enough. I'm just going to sell to people through word of mouth. That's not going to work. Also, social media is vital. I mean, Jolene's a good attest to that. She can tell you how vital social media is, because Jolene with Wabanaki Maple is nailing social media, has been from the beginning, but sales as well. As an entrepreneur in service business, I used word of mouth for 2 years. I didn't bother reaching out to someone. I said, hey, if you know anyone, and I guess this is kind of like a sales tactic, any of my existing clients, if you know anyone and I'm doing a good job for you and you're enjoying my service, can you let other people know? So for 2 years, my business ran on word of mouth, which was not that great, because when it came time for me to have to fill in the blanks and get more clients in, I didn't have the sales technique. So I had to take like 3 to 4 months to learn how to sell so that I could fill in the pipeline of potential businesses. Yeah, and Jolene's saying how important social media is. It is true. Your social media, as much as you might not like your personal social media, you're not a fan of it. I definitely am not. Ironically, because I'm working in social media right now, I don't like it, but I still know how important it is to get content out there. So yeah, you want to make sure that sales and social media become your friend, or you take that opportunity to find somebody to help you if that is your weakness. Make sense? Feeling good? Awesome. Now we're going to talk about people, because people are also super important when it comes to social media, when it comes to entrepreneurship. I wish I would have involved mentors way earlier. I talked a lot to mentors before I started my business. But the thing I didn't do was talk to the right people. So not only finding out mentors that are in a similar business as you, a similar product business or service business, or someone who actually has experience starting a business themselves, it's important to also make friends with entrepreneurs too, because like I remember talking to, there was a couple times before I started my business when I was learning about how to build a financial plan for when I started. And I talked to one accountant who works for an accounting firm and never started their own business, and they really didn't give the best advice. I mean, they have amazing advice for like larger organizations and stuff, but when I talked to an accountant that actually owned her accounting firm and had started this firm 10 years, and she was the one that actually went through the struggles of starting a business, she had so much more relatable advice for me. And I wish I would have talked to her sooner. So that's another key tip too, is try to find, a mentor is important, but try to find someone that fits you. Don't just reach for a mentor that, someone recommended because they're really good. It wouldn't make sense. Like, for example, if Jolene with her maple syrup is trying to find a mentor to help grow her business, and she goes and talks to a guy who sells another service that has nothing to do with maple syrup. Like, you want to make sure that they have some sort of connection or experience in your realm. That's important. And again, entrepreneur friends. I only really made entrepreneur friends last year or the year before. I didn't really make new friends, of course, because of the pandemic, and I was super busy with this business. But once I started making entrepreneur friends, I felt a lot more like at home with people, and I was able to connect with people who had similar challenges as me, personal challenges I'm going to talk a little bit about in the next slide, I believe. But connections are so important, and it's actively seeking those connections will help your business and help you start your entrepreneurial journey, because I have these teachings from my experience, and it's not just my experience. I'm pulling this information from a lot of friends and mentors and individuals that taught me things over the past 3-4 years. So that's how you learn as well, is coming here, adding me on LinkedIn or whatever the case is, and growing your connections from there. Word of mouth is also super important. As much as I said, it can't just be word of mouth. It's still super important, especially in New Brunswick. Your connections and your friends go a long way, especially if you can find a networking event, come to events like this, meet some people, and grow outside of who you currently know. That's also highly important. And building a team is, well, this is for later on, not so much early stage entrepreneurs, but one thing I would recommend is don't jump into it. Entrepreneurship can get kind of lonely, and it can get a little overwhelming because you're doing a lot of this by yourself, and you don't have that team around you when you're first starting off, either as a side hustle or just working by yourself for the first year or so. You don't have people beside you to say, you're doing a great job, or this or that. And I find my loneliness really fed into me hiring students. It's, again, vulnerability. I'm admitting to that. Although it was great, I did really enjoy working with them, and they made my life a lot easier, that I started trying to find ways to keep them with the business and say, okay, well, if they can focus on running the business or helping clients, I can focus on getting more clients and growing the business. And in reality, if that was the case, I should have hired people that had a lot more experience, because I was training them, supporting the clients, becoming the event manager, managing all my work, and trying to grow the business at the same time. So I was really early in hiring team members because I was lonely, and then I was fighting to make sure that growth continued. So those were some vulnerable things that I'm opening up about here today that I recommend that you be careful with. It's great to have team members join you if you can hire a student. There's lots of funds that can help you hire a student at no cost to yourself, which is fantastic. But don't promise anyone. And if you don't need a student or you don't need a team member, don't get a loan, don't find any extra funding, don't strain yourself to keep them. And make sure you have that open conversation from the start. Because I put myself through a lot of shit because of trying to keep my team on board. And that's the other thing too, is once you give them that full-time contract, or you give them long-term employment, you're not just trying to put a roof over your head and food on your table, you're also putting a roof over other people's heads and food on their table too, and the stress quadruples. I was not ready for that. So that's a tip too, is make sure you're prepared for those pieces. Another thing when it comes to connections, kind of similarly, is business partnerships. So I wanted to talk a bit about partnerships and contracts, because I had gotten myself into a bit of trouble, but a contract saved me. So when you're building relationships, there's so many individuals that you can work with, whether it's a partner in your own personal business, or if you're a complementary business that works alongside you. For example, I was working alongside a marketing company. I'm not going to name them, but we were working side by side. And we were building a project together. And I was jumping right into it. We were super excited. It seemed like a good fit. But my gut told me, okay, before you jump on any big purchases together, before you go any further, make sure you have a contract in place. I didn't have the cash to hire a lawyer to put a formal contract together, but all that I did was look online, a couple things. I wrote down a bunch of notes, and then I had it so that we both signed it and we were both on the same page. And it was along the lines of, hi, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. We're jumping into this big purchase together. It was, I co-signed the venue with her, actually. We're jumping on this huge purchase together. Let's sign this contract so we can at least know where we're both standing. And when COVID came around and things went south, I got locked out of the venue, all this kind of stuff. When things go sour, at least you have paper and signatures to support you. Not every partnership goes wrong. Partnerships run beautifully and smoothly and in a handful of cases. But for a lot of my mentors and a lot of business friends I have and entrepreneur friends, they all have a horror story, but theirs are a lot worse because I was able to file a lawsuit to get my, I was able to do that because I had a contract. In a lot of cases, these guys, my friends, my mentors, they lost lots of money and they had to close their business because they didn't have the proper paperwork in place. Even if it's a memo you write on a piece of paper, I agree to do this, and you both sign it, that counts. Okay, that counts. Save yourself even if you're going in business with your friends or your family. It's really important. So that's another key piece I want to share with you guys. Now I know I'm talking a lot about the negatives. I really love entrepreneurship. When it comes to connections, I'm so grateful. I still talk to a lot of my staff. Like you see here, Chloe, cute little face right there. She's one of my best friends. We still talk every day, even though I had to let her go. We're still connected. And the mentors and the connections and the friends, even though I'm not in business, I still maintain those friendships, not for any cause, for the fact that I really love these people and they were with me at my worst and my best. So it's nice to build those connections as you go, not only for the sake of your business, but for the sake of your livelihood. And it's great to meet new people. So pivoting is highly important. I went through 2, maybe 3 major pivots in my business. Pivoting is one of the only things that are guaranteed in your business. You will have to switch and change your business as you go. Because when you're first starting with a brand new idea, you will learn a lot about what your customers actually want. And even in some cases, when market research comes into play and you interview people and you ask them what they want for your service or your product, they'll tell you. And you might think you're delivering one thing, but your customers are going to tell you, no, actually, we don't like it that way. We're going to do it somewhere different. So my pivot specifically with my business is when it was Kayla Johnson projects and events, before it became Acacia events. I was helping people start businesses and start impact focus projects. I was focused on project-based side of things. And because I was a yes lady, I had people come to me and be like, okay, but can you help me make this impact through an event? I know you have event experience. Let's do some events. And then I ended up trying to sell a bunch of contracts for projects. And then I ended up having 5+ events as soon as I started my business full time. So what I learned is people didn't want the service I wanted to give originally. They wanted event planning, and it's something that I already loved and I wanted to do on the side, but it turned out to be a full-time experience for me, which was super cool. Never would have expected it. Pivot number 2 clearly is the pandemic. So more than half of my business took place in the pandemic. I did continue to run my business after that was announced, and an event planning business where I focused on festivals and conferences, a lot of in-person festivals and conferences. You can tell that my entire business was flopped upside down. If it wasn't for one of my clients to grab me by the neck and be like, stop your sooking, let's do some virtual events, I wouldn't have continued my business. I wouldn't still be with JEDI. I wouldn't be where I am today. So we switched to virtual, and that was a huge thing as well. So again, pivoting is expect to pivot your business at some point when you start it. Maybe if it's not specifically your product or service, but delivery. And the other thing too is businesses have such a high probability of failure. And that's because a lot of people don't have these vulnerable conversations about what businesses actually is. 9 out of 10 businesses fail. And that's a fact. That's written in stone, that there's lots of statistics behind that. So you can expect to make some challenges. Not everyone's first business is going to be the one that they run with forever. And if it is, you learned a lot ahead of time, or you made your mistakes and you made it work. I thought, okay, well, I took years studying entrepreneurship. My mother's an entrepreneur. I have a safe space. I have that privilege of a safe space. I'm not going to fail. Well, there's challenges to that. And it's not so much failing, it's learning. It's all an experience, right? And I found this quote online, and I absolutely love it because it's so vulnerable and it's so real. And I don't like seeing it in a negative light, but if and when you do fail, it will have your name on it. So it's taking those failures that you have come across in entrepreneurship, expecting that you will run into some challenges and you will most likely fail at something. Maybe it's not the entire business itself, but it's aspects of your business, and saying, you know what, I'm going to own that. There's no one else in this business that holds accountability except for me. So that's another piece there. Those are like two, I guess, things that you can expect. Otherwise, expect that everything else is unexpected. Tongue twist. And one of the last things I want to talk about is the personal sacrifice. So this is the stuff that they don't share too much online. A lot of people don't talk much about this because it is the vulnerability about it, but it's a personal sacrifice to starting a business. And again, this is not just my experience, and everyone's experience is different, but these are the commonalities between a lot of my mentors in business and entrepreneurship friends. Once you start diving into the ugly truths of entrepreneurship, you find it. And again, the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I'd love for everyone to walk away either knowing I'm ready or not right now. So we're having that conversation now on purpose. You lose a lot of time with your family and friends. I lost a lot of friends, and that is not an uncommon experience when you start a business. I had a lot of friends who didn't understand that the sacrifice and the commitment I wanted to do for my business was important to me. And because I wasn't as readily available, I lost people because my mind was very much focused on the future and focused to growing something. I lost people, and that is super common in entrepreneurship. So I kind of see that as a positive light. A lot of people that weren't entirely supportive made way for the amazing friends that I have today. So that's another personal sacrifice that I've learned the hard way about. But again, it's super common. Physical and mental health. I am super huge on prioritizing that, and a lot of people don't. If you think burnout sucks in a 9-to-5 job, try working like 80 plus hours. I'm sure many of you have. It's not an uncommon experience, but burnout can hurt, especially if you're working for a business, you're working for yourself and you are your main source of income, and you can't really take time off because you got to feed yourself and your family. So that physical and mental health really can damage your business, and that's why it really needs to take priority. A lot of entrepreneurs will sacrifice sleep. A lot of entrepreneurs will sacrifice their eating routines or their workout routines, and that does cause a lot of challenges. So one of my key tips, huge tips, prioritize mental health and physical health. That is extremely important as well. Like I said, you are usually alone. It's not a sob story. It's something to keep in mind. Don't get too carried away with trying to hire people to fill that void like I did and financially kind of put your business in a rough patch, but it'd be really cool to make those connections with other entrepreneurial friends and grow and meet people who aren't working for you or alongside you, but are just working with you side by side on their own different projects. So that's also another great thing that helped with that loneliness. Another thing I really wish I would have known is that, although I wouldn't change anything about it, careful when you turn your passion into your business. I loved events. I did them for fun. I volunteered with them, and I got I accidentally fell into it, like I said, with that first pivot of planning events with my business. But it took the fun out of event planning. And that is what I hear a lot from other people is even if they're in a creative business or an art business, they love selling their art or they love doing the specific service and it's their passion, their fun, they enjoy it. Sometimes entrepreneurship can pull the fun out of it. So one recommendation that I have that has been passed through is always find the fun in it. Love the work that you do. And don't forget that the passion derived from something before you turned it into a business and try to keep that passion alive. So that's another real important thing. There are lots of personal sacrifices outside of your work. The work-life balance is a myth when it comes to entrepreneurship. You're living your business and it takes a couple of years to be able to have something outside of your business to build something externally. But it is worth it. It is so worth it. And when you have a supportive family and supportive friends and colleagues around you that help you get to your goals and help encourage you to continue to strive for your goals, that makes a huge difference. But keep people around you who are of that and nothing else. That's the key thing here too. I know I'm a little short on time, so I'm going to kind of rush through. That's me in front of that office space that I did not keep. So there's a couple things I wanted to say here. So when is it the right time to start, go full time, to expand, and to shut things down? When is the right time to start? Immediately. Although plan first, but take that risk. I would recommend don't go full time until you're fully ready. There's nothing saying that you can't write a business plan over the next month, that you can't write some notes down, you can't start talking to people. That's a matter of starting too. So if you're looking at, if you're asking for a sign on whether or not you should start, despite everything I warned you of today, the answer is start, get started, jump in. But keep a note that these are key things that you should try to be prepared for when you're jumping into starting a business. When you go full time, I definitely jumped in full time way earlier than I should have. I'd recommend like making sure that your business, your part-time business is growing and is bringing you in money and you have clients to the point where you can live sustainably, almost sustainably off of that, and you have a plan and you have the cash flow and you have the savings. It's really about making sure that money's in place, especially if you're making an impact. If you want to be making an impact in your business, you still have to prioritize the cash flow and the money. That's one thing too, is like I want to give away and I want to make sure I'm donating and taking care of other people. You have to take care of yourself first. And you really have to make sure that you are fed before you feed other people. And that's the main thing in the business world too. Same with expanding. Make sure that that cash flow is there and you have savings. If you have a loan, fantastic, but make sure you, if you're making a budget for what you want to plan to do, double it, triple it, expect that it'll be bigger than you planned. And when to shut things down. When do you know when it's done? Don't try to feed a dead horse. Is that the saying? Yeah. Don't try to feed a dead horse. I took out another loan on the business when I probably should have shut things down. That's another key, is get advice from external people. Yes, you're in it alone, but again, that's where mentors come in and they help you. Talk to people who have experience, who have shut down businesses before. One of my best friends, he has a business and he has like 30 employees now and he's running it super successfully across Canada. It's his third business. He went bankrupt 15 years ago. So he always says, know when to stop, know when the time is done. It's not your last. You don't have to keep trying to make your business survive. It's not going to be your last. Learn from your mistakes, learn from your failures, and push forward. So that's another thing too. But the overall thing that I wanted to bring to everyone today is that I went through 4 years of a lot of harsh learning, and it was all through experience. When I started the side hustle to when I closed the business last year, not even a full year ago, and not even officially closed. I can't because of the loans, right? So what we're trying to teach you here today is all the different tips and tricks to help you understand whether or not entrepreneurship is right for you, because in some cases it's not. If you learn here, oh, that sounds like I don't like that. We're not trying to deter you from entrepreneurship, but if this doesn't sound like a route that you want to take, don't take it. Try to see whether or not this works for you. If it's a route that maybe you can take later on in life when things are a little bit more settled and you feel a little bit more comfortable and there's a cushion for savings for you to take that leap, do it then. Or if you're in the middle of a business, which I think a lot of you are, try to learn from some of my mistakes. Learn from where I tried to expand too early. I tried to hire staff too early. I took out loans to try to keep the business surviving in a pandemic when in reality, it's not a full-time business anymore. It's not going to be sustainable. Take that time to really evaluate what you're doing. Talk with mentors. Talk to people who made mistakes and are open and vulnerable about it. And know that there's always going to be something bigger and better, even if it's in your own business, right? So there's always going to be something that you can strive for, and there's always going to be people on your side. Yeah, I wouldn't change a single thing. I'd do it all over again. I loved it. I love challenging myself. I love learning. Life to me isn't about oh my gosh, it sucks, I have so much debt, whatever the case is. Money is just an object. I mean, it's really important. That's why I'm, trying to strive to make sure I can put food on my table and support my family. But at the end of the day, I would take it all over again. But I do it so much differently now because I took that time to learn. And hopefully when you take that step towards entrepreneurship, because it is a very exciting and thrilling experience, and there is freedom in it, it's just not during the startup phase. There's excitement and there's growth and there's drive to it. You will be proud of yourself when you've made it through. I technically failed, but I'm really proud of myself for making it through. And I'm going to be proud of myself when my new business comes along in the future. I'm not ready yet, not there yet, but when I'm ready in the future, I'll be proud of myself and I'll continue to push myself and cheer on other people too. So yeah, I'd do it again. How are we feeling? I hope I didn't push anyone over the edge or anything. I want to make sure it's like an open, vulnerable space. We're spilling the tea on entrepreneurship. It's an experience that I'm sharing. How do people feel? I'd love to hear your thoughts.